Morning, everyone. Thank you for our patience. It's a little rainy out, and we wanted to give our guests and some of our commissioners time to get here and dry off before we started this very important work that we have to do today. I am Leah Dupree Love, and I am acting interim chair of the Metro Arts Commission. Again, I want to say hello and welcome to everyone and to our guests. Please know that we appreciate your presence here with us today, and we ask that you please sign in. If you are a guest wishing to address the commission with a public comment, you will need to sign in and pick up an information sheet. And to open our meeting, we want to offer a land acknowledgement. It's something that we've been doing here for some time. Feel free to follow along on the screen as I read this aloud. Metro Arts stands and holds space on the unceded and the sovereign lands of the Cherokee East, the Yuchi and the Shawnee peoples who have stewarded it for generations. Every community owes its existence and vitality to the generations from around the world who contributed their energy to making the history that led to this moment. Some were brought here against their will. Some were drawn here to leave their distant homes to hope for a better life, and some have lived on this land for more generations than can be counted. We acknowledge we are all standing on ancestral lands, and we honor the thousands of enslaved African peoples whose lives were physically and spiritually stolen. We pay respects to elders, past and present. Metro Arts invites you to join our community in getting to know our Native communities in more meaningful ways in alignment with our restorative arts practice. So thank you. Now, we want to introduce our new commissioners. If you have been with us for a while, you know that we do have some new faces. And so as of this week, we do have some new commissioners. And I'll call their name, and they can just wave, or they can call them names themselves. So we have Timothy Jester. We have Heather Lefkowitz. We have Arlene Nicholas Phillips, who will be here shortly. We have DeWanna Wade. And we have Beverly Watts. So thank you so much for being here. We thank you for your commitment to the community, the commitment to Metro Arts, and we look forward to working with you as we do this great work of making sure that arts is important to our community. Daniel, do you want to introduce the staff really quickly?
Sure. So let me start with Claudia. Can you just pass it on to the next staff person so we can get all the new faces introduced here? Chuck, do you all want to introduce yourselves?
Chuck Beard, Artist and Organizational Support Coordinator.
And Leslie Owens, Public Art Collections Manager.
Jessica Ingram, Public Art Manager.
Jesse Ross, Public Art Coordinator.
And we have
Murga, Project Manager, Public Art.
Vivian Fox, Office Support Specialist.
Thank you. Yep.
All right, thank you so much. And we do have Commissioner Arlene Nicholas Phillips, who just joined us, and we'd ask that she join us up here, your seat up here. Thank you so much. And so let's transition now to one of the more important parts of our meetings, and that's the public comment portion. And at the Arts Commission, we regularly hold space at our meetings for public comments. The public comment process is an opportunity for the public to speak directly to the commission about agenda topics. We value the public's feedback and their interest and commitment to Metro Arts. All comments are carefully considered and integrated when possible, and if appropriate, into our process forward. Commissioners' public comments received through our online portal was emailed to you and is available in your packet. Individuals providing public comments must either be residents of Davidson County or work in an arts organization whose work is predominantly, and that's 55% or more, in Davidson County. When invited to speak, please state your name and the agenda item you are addressing so we can include it in the minutes for this meeting. Please note that this is a one-way parliamentary process. Commissioners should not engage directly with commenters during the meeting. Additionally, please note the new guidelines for public comments adopted into the commission bylaws on October the 19th, 2023, which are as follows. Davidson County residents can sign up for public comments. The public comment period is limited to 20 minutes total. Comments are limited to a maximum of 2 minutes per person. Persons wishing to provide comment on matters that are germane to items on the agenda must sign up prior to the beginning of the meeting on the sign-up sheet provided at the meeting. The opportunity to provide public comment is offered on a first-come, first-served basis. At all meetings, the commissioner chairing the proceedings shall have the authority to manage, limit the number of persons, non-board members, allowed to speak on an issue and to manage and limit such speakers' time. Vivian Fox is the Office Support Specialist at Metro Arts and will be facilitating the public comment today. Vivian, will you invite the first participant to speak?
All right, AJ, can you have that first one? I believe is Lydia.
Come to, yes.
Can you
we
come to
invite
the
you
mic?
to come to the mic here.
Thank you.
And make sure the green light is on so that people who are watching can hear you as well.
Okay.
And your time starts now.
My name is Lydia Youssef. I'm speaking to the MHRC complaint. During the August Commission meeting, both former commissioners, Mary Ann and Jim Schmidt, who led the charge to force 3 women of color to resign and was never held accountable, removed, or disbarred from any board position in Metro, stated that their decisions to defund Thrive were hard decisions. This is how we know that racists will prioritize their own feelings of narcissism, superiority, and white guilt over the dozens of BIPOC artists who had to make severe, hard decisions that day. In the wake of that decision, I personally had to make multiple phone calls to several community members to tell them that we at In Mahabba Center could not support their projects after previously telling them that Metro Council had approved funding democratically sought for by artists. I want to put that into the record that even one artist right now, he's right now in Cairo at the International Book Fair, the world's largest book fair in the world, doing several speaking gigs. We could not fund his project for this year, an international artist in Nashville, because of this commission's decision. We had wanted to fund his writing projects that focused on Nashville. So what a shame that he's going all the way to Cairo to speak about his experiences in Nashville, his son going to traffic school, his first trip to Opry Mills, his first time hearing Nashville being called Music City, and he has to be funded outside of Nashville because he's an Arab. Unfortunately, his taxes will subsidize monopolies like the First and the Symphony, and historically, he has to make his own path. He has to be resilient, but is forced to pay taxes to this system. I say this first to say no one is begging Metro Arts Commission for money. That's not what the MHRC complaint is. A commissioner at the meeting in November insinuated that Thrive applicants can use funds for anything without accountability, that as if we don't report.
Time.
This is a really racist assumption about how people of color use funds and that we're not eligible or worthy enough of these funds. So I repeat, we're not begging for these funds just because we're not donating to Freddie's campaign to keep us on the commission. We are demanding our fair share, not a gift, like another commissioner said. And we are asking for the end of subsidizing these poorly managed, rarely audited white organizations. This is not about
Time.
chaos or complication.
I'm sorry,
but
that was
rather-
time.
Yes, it's not about chaos
Thank
or
you so much.
complication, but about racism.
Vivian, is there someone else on the list?
AJ?
Good afternoon. I'm Michael Lacey, formerly a staffer from the Mayor's Office of Community Safety under Mayors John Cooper and also Freddie O'Connell. I just wanted to give some context for grant funding that's been made possible through work through the Mayor's Office regarding community safety to primarily BIPOC organizations working in that space, and that there is absolutely a precedent for prioritizing organizations that serve socially vulnerable populations, regardless of what legislation has been overturned by certain Supreme Court rulings, and that there doesn't seem to be, in the context that we were supporting these groups from Metro Legal or Metro Finance, issues with that matter when it came to serving those communities.
1 minute.
So there does appear to be a path forward when it comes to prioritizing equitable funding for organizations that are led by and serve nonprofit organizations. I, for one, had 48 contracts passed through the Metro City Council, Metro Legal signature, and the mayor's signature on it. And this also supported a $1.8 million grant we got from the DOJ, which highlighted our initiatives here as the federal government is very much prioritizing funding of that nature and in some ways requires it to receive grant funding. I return my time.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's all for public comment.
All right. Thank you, Vivian. And thank you all for sharing your comments and your commitment to the well-being of the Nashville arts community. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes. Commissioners, you received the October 16th and November 16th minutes in your board packet, and hopefully everyone had an opportunity to review them. Are there any changes? I know it's difficult for the newer commissioners because you were not on the commission to make changes or even make a recommendation to approve those minutes. So I would like to entertain a motion, or if there is no objection, we can approve the minutes by common consent with any necessary changes, because we are at a disadvantage because the majority of the people here today are the newer commissioners and they were not here or within the minutes. And so if we can just approve by common consent with any necessary changes that can be sent in at a later time. Is that appropriate? Is it the way to do? I'm looking at legal to see. Okay, all right, thank you. There's no objections to that? All right, thank you, commissioners. Oh,
Regarding that meeting, I don't know if I should wait until the end.
oh,
You can.
Okay, sorry, I'm late and didn't know what to do. Catching my breath. I have a comment, something that I want to address regarding last meeting, so I don't know if I can talk about it right now, or is it at the end of the meeting?
so does it address any changes in the minutes?
No.
Okay, then we can
Regarding last meeting.
we can hold that until we get to old and new business.
Good.
I do have one correction in the November minutes, and I can send that in. I want to make sure, I was not at the November meeting, and I want to make sure that it's reflected, that, because it says now that I was present. I want to make sure that that is clarified, but that was the only change that I had, but thank you. So next item on the agenda, we have our artist spotlight. And Chuck Beard, who is the Metro Arts Artist and Organizational Support Coordinator, is here to introduce today's Artist Spotlight. Chuck?
Thanks. Welcome back to one of our favorite traditions at these commission meetings of taking time to learn from and feature local artists. To keep things related to current events and topics in our world, we are fortunate today to be able to spotlight two local artists that on paper would be perceived to be at odds in the world, but are the opposite when it comes to reality. We thought it would be great to set the tone for this year of meetings and always important decisions within Metro Arts and our local ecosystem with the examples set by these two amazing artists. The pair of featured artists are going to share the stage, and you can see more bio descriptions and links on the slides on the wall. but I want to briefly and respectfully give intros before they share their time and talents with us here today. First is M. Berkey. You may already have seen them perform locally under the name Emma Dilemma or Ever Alters. M writes cosmic folk songs that blur the lines between the profane and the sacred. Their perspective of place is rooted in Jewish, earth-based spiritual practices, while also looking forward toward a future where everyone is free. Second is Asia Abu Asaba. Asia is a Palestinian-American social worker and writer in Nashville. She serves on the board of El Mahaba Center, an organization who is a first-time Thrive awardee for this most recent FY24 cycle, and she utilizes writing as an avenue to advocate for social justice issues. Together, please give a round of applause and positive attention for Em and Asia.
I'm going to play you a song called Apple Trees. I'll note today is a holiday called Tu B'Shvat, the birthday of the trees, so I thought it would be appropriate. I'm going to take my mask off. Apologies. Growing up, I climbed the old apple trees, pretending I could fly with the small fairies. Perched up on the limbs, I never felt alone. Welcomed by the spirits of the endless saint. So, hey, child, what you making? What are you making? When I was coming up, I crushed the flowers growing wild in an acorn shell with water from the creek down the hill. I would make a perfume as a secret offering. I hid it in a wall of an old stone building. Hey, child, what you making? What are you making? Are they calling? Or am I hearing something impossible? Is it real or am I yearning for a place where I can be home? For a place where I can be home. Hey, child, what you making? What are you making? Lately I've been feeling rooted in my home, planting in my garden anything I can grow. But sadness overtakes me when I see my friends all go. What does it mean to stay when the ground is shaking so? Hey, child, what you making? Hey, child, what you making? Hey, child, what you making? What you making? What are you making? Thank you. I just want to say a couple words about this song, mostly that it's about my relationship to the land as a diasporic Jew, whose tradition views that the tree of life, or Eitz Chaim, is viewed as the holy apple orchard, the home of the Ein Sof, meaning without end, a name we have for the divine. I grew up in the South in North Carolina, among the apple trees, and I climbed them as a kid, and I felt safe there. For me, connecting to the land is a way of processing generational trauma and grief. And I also wrote this song during a time in Tennessee when trans rights were being attacked right and left. I saw a lot of people move away. My ancestors knew displacement and the need to flee, and this is why I am strongly a Jew for a free Palestine. Palestinian grief is also my grief, and this is why I stand in solidarity with Palestinians. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Hi, thank you for inviting us here. I have a couple of poems to read to you today. The first one is called, What is Palestinian Grief? Our grief must become an educator, an activist, a level head and a calm tone. It is condemning of our own, existing in oppressive lore, act normal through the pain, bombed by racism like warplanes. It's like nothing else you've ever seen. Our grief is dry soil, drinking, gulping, never quenched. It is a chasm, constantly being stuffed. Push it down, make room for more. This poem is about the role that Palestinians are expected to take on during an ongoing ethnic cleansing, dispossession, and genocide of their people. They are not allowed to cry through their grief. They are looked to as the activists and the educators and the backbone of a social movement. There is no one else expected to behave this way while they are experiencing insurmountable grief. My next poem is called Ana Dammi Falastini. This is the land where my uncles and aunts gasped their first breath and stepped their first steps to the beat of a chant, free, free, our homes, our bodies, our spirits from a fisted cage. This is the land where my grandmother grew oranges on vibrant fields and fed her friends until settlers burned it all and built their own port of power. She was left to wander in countries and other lands that she never wanted to stop and look at. Her head always turned toward her real home. Her eyes saw only her truth. This is the land where my father's heart, cradled in his mother's hands, the soil deep in her palm lines, feeds into his blood, feeding into me, and now I can taste it right behind my teeth. My blood is Palestinian. This is about my family, obviously, who were born there for generations and raised in a beautiful land where they cultivated, where they loved, and where many have died. They were forced to leave, and they have never felt at home, and they have never found their home. Thank you all.
Thank you so much.
Thank you again, Em and Asia, from all of us. One more thing related to the artist feature. Em, they both asked me to share the following slide with information about an event this month. That was last night because of the reschedule, but still an important, wonderful opportunity for anyone and everyone interested to learn more about how to discuss common myths and misleading narratives regarding Palestine and Israel to build awareness and clarity surrounding the conflict at hand. As you can see, there was a community workshop in collaboration with Nashville Jews for Justice and American Youth for Palestine, and more that took place at Dark Matter. You can contact Em and Asia on their websites and everything else, social media, about more upcoming gatherings that are similar about the meeting today, but just wanted to say that, and thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Chuck, and a special thanks to Em and Aisha for being with us today. Before we go to the next item, I do want to apologize to one of our commissioners, Commissioner John. I did not call your name earlier, and please forgive me. I was looking at you, and I just did not do it. So welcome to you as well, and then also welcome to Commissioner Diana, who joined us as well. So please forgive me for that. I was looking right at you, and I still just went over your name. And so next on the agenda, Daniel will give an update on the cultural planning process.
Hi, everyone. So we've restarted the cultural planning process. In the fall, we were notified that several community members were left off. So we've reconstituted the steering committee. They were supposed to be here last week, but because of the weather, it's been rescheduled to February. But in February, they'll be here for a steering committee meeting. And then following that in March, there'll be a week-long community engagement process. Following that, we'll have surveys for about 45 days that'll be going out into the community. There'll be a lot of focus groups, listening sessions, and a draft plan is estimated to be out around September, October of next year for public comment again, and then it'll be finalized by next January.
Thank you so much. Are there any questions on that? All right, seeing none. Next, we will hear and ask that Reverend Tucker come to the mic and provide an update on the Title VI complaint that was recently filed with the Metro Human Relations Commission. So, Reverend Tucker.
Thank you, Chair. I'm the Executive Director of the MHRC. On October 16th, we received a complaint concerning the allocation and disbursements during the grants. There was an interim period where we couldn't begin our process while we worked out issues with legal. We began our interviews on December 4th. Since then, we have interviewed 13 past and present commissioners, several staff, 2 of your consultants, and 6 affected artists. We're in the final phases of compiling our report. We recently were able to get outside counsel that we're using to answer some final questions. So we're hoping to have a preliminary report in the next 2 to 3 weeks. I'll take any questions you might have.
Are there any questions for Reverend Tucker at this time?
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Reverend Tucker. And we look forward to working hard to keep the commission updated on this process as it unfolds. So.
And I'm excited, and I say welcome to all of the new commissioners, and we bid you Godspeed in your job here.
All right. Thank you so much. Oh, absolutely. Yes.
I meant to write down and just did not. When would the final report be done, he said, Reverend Tucker? I just missed that. I'm sorry.
The next 2 or 3 weeks, but we're trying to be, and I gave you the numbers to the depth.
Yeah.
And just to be even more emphatic about our attempt to be thorough, we've listened to almost a year's worth of all of the Arts Commission meetings. We've read and taken excerpts from all of the minutes. We've talked with individuals in Metro Finance and other related departments. We're trying to be as thorough as possible, and we don't want to rush it.
Yep. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you so much. Next on the agenda is the Committee for Anti-Racism and Equity. The CARE Committee and Commissioner Diana Perez will be presenting.
Thank you, and I'm sorry, everybody, for being late. So we met yesterday. There has been applications open for the community to be part of the committee. And so after that, we review some of all of the applications, and we want to move forward with the following 2 applicants to officially become members of the CARE Committee. One is Lydia Youssef, and the other is Camille Greer. I don't know if I should stop here so the. Mm-hmm.
What? I'm so sorry. I was. One more time. I'm so sorry. Yes.
Okay, so I was just mentioning the 2 applicants that were recommended to move forward with to be part of the CARE Committee is Lydia Youssef and Camille Greer.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess right now I need to officially appoint Lydia and Camille to that committee. Okay, and so that is my desire to appoint Lydia Youssef and Camille Greer to that committee. Are they here with us today?
Lydia is.
Okay. Oh, yes, Lydia's. Okay, thank you so much. Congratulations.
Yes, and congratulations, and thank you for all the applicants and all the members of the public that is interested in being part of this committee. Very important work that we do. We also want to move forward with the anti-racism training facilitated by Alternate Routes and Justin Lane in May with all commissioners, staff, and all Metro Arts committee members with a follow-up joint meeting in the fall to be scheduled. So Daniel will communicate these with Andrea Blackman, and her office will be included in preparing for the training. Also, the CARE committee and staff will revisit the CARE application form to more closely align it with the current Metro grants and other application process. The revised form will be open, and CARE committee members were asked to recruit more applicants to increase the number of community members approved to be on the CARE committee before the training in May.
All right, thank you so much, Commissioner Perez. Are there any questions or comments on that, on the committee report? And I will say this, I know, and I hate to say that you are at a disadvantage just because this is your first meeting, but please feel free to ask any questions that you have. You know, that is your right as commissioners to ask questions, and we encourage you to ask questions if you have them.
I'm someone who likes to read, so if you all can provide me some background detail on the committee, its structures, and its members, that would be helpful. If it's coming, tell me it's coming. I'm fine. Good deal.
Yes, you all receive all of those committee compositions and background on that, so you'll have a little bit more information about which committees that you will be serving on. Okay.
Vice Chair, I have a question about the training that we're talking about in May is different from like the onboarding training that we might be receiving as commissioners. That's
Correct.
two
Yeah, so
distinct.
the onboarding is much smaller. It'll probably be about an hour and a half. The training that CARE committee has recommended is probably going to be 2-day-long training. And Metro Arts has a history of doing this from many years ago, and we paused it during the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to restart that up now.
That's great.
And are the people who are doing the training, are they local or are they from somewhere else?
So we're bringing two. One would be from Alternate Routes. They're from Atlanta, Georgia, and they work in arts and anti-racist practice. And then Justin Lang is from Pittsburgh. He'll be coming in and be working with our Andrea Blackman's office in the city as well as we prepare and vet all the materials through them. Yeah.
Before scheduling that, are you going to check everybody's schedule?
Absolutely.
Okay, good. Supposed to be in Italy, I think, and sometime.
Yeah. Thanks. All right, thank you, Commissioner Perez.
Thank you.
And so now we will hear from project updates from the Public Art Collections Manager, Ann Leslie Owens. So Ann Leslie is all yours.
Thank you. Welcome, commissioners, and especially new commissioners. I am happy to be providing one of the Public Art Committee actions today. Jessica Ingram is here with me, the Public Art Manager, and she will be providing a second recommendation from the Public Art Committee. The recommendation I'm bringing to you concerns our temporary art on Metro property guidelines, and you'll be hearing more about this in the onboarding that is coming up. But before I mention and get into the details of that, I want to tell you about what precipitated this. The Nashville Department of Transportation has been working with Barge Design team to explore tactical urbanism and artistic interventions. These kinds of projects are primarily community-based. They are temporary projects installed within the public right-of-way to demonstrate a potential change in the urban environment. And from that those pilot projects they've been doing, they have developed a draft tactical urbanism guidelines and procedures. And I believe those were provided to you in the packet. NDOT is considering funding, staff support, updates to the permit system, and a means for data collection. So it's really an exciting new initiative from the Nashville Department of Transportation. The timeline for these projects and their approval and implementation is rather short, 7 to 10 days. And this development is exciting for us and impacts the work of the commission because we have been using something called temporary art on Metro property, some guidelines whereby we review projects proposed by the community that might be in the right-of-way. This is a review process that was begun several years ago. Metro Arts developed this with Metro Public Works, the predecessor to Nashville Department of Transportation, and we were looking at artwork projects in the right-of-way. Over the years, we have expanded this to be metro-wide. Oftentimes, parks, for example, gets a proposal for a community art project of a temporary nature and has utilized our assistance. We formalized the policy and the submission process in August 2021 after review with Metro Legal. So what is Metro Arts' role in this process? Well, of course, we want to make arts more accessible to all Nashvillians. We want to be able to provide consistent policy across departments, bring in our experience and our expertise with public art projects, and develop a documental process. We do this through a program we have called Submittable. And of course, we want to support other Metro departments. As we have talked with Nashville Department of Transportation about the tactical urbanism guidelines, we have seen how they overlap with the temporary artwork guidelines, and perhaps those guidelines need to be changed. We had some alignment options. We could look at it as that only art projects transfer to Metro Art Review, which would mean staff, public art committee, and commission approval. But then we also considered, is there a way for NDOT to include Metro Arts best practices within each project that would typically have come to the PAC and the commission for approval. So as we talked to Nashville Department of Transportation, we saw that they were utilizing those best practices that Metro Arts would want to see. They were involving and paying local artists. They were engaging the community. They were providing a maintenance plan and a contact person and organization that would be responsible for the artwork and provide a maintenance fund. So with that, we would like to slightly revise the temporary art guidelines because we have this assurance from NDOT, and we will be checking in with them to make sure those best practices are taken care of. But this then allows staff the opportunity, the assurance that this is happening, and we don't need to bring each of these projects to the Public Art Committee and the Commission. So just is streamlining things a little bit. So in your packet, you saw the current guidelines and the proposed ones. This first one is simply a formatting change to add in section K. It was lost in the paragraph above without having its own letter. And then the second one is one where it has show you the current section that deals specifically with NDOT, which they helped to author, but that because of this new process is no longer needed in quite the same way. So there you'll see the proposed text which changes that ever so slightly and references the tactical urbanism guidelines.
All right, are there any questions for Ann Leslie on the temporary art on Metro property guidelines? And so we will need to vote on this. We will need to have a vote to adopt the recommendation from the committee on this. And so if you have any questions, I want you to ask them because we do need to vote on that today. So Commissioner John, yes. And then Commissioner DeWine.
Would there be any harm in deferring this to the next meeting so the new commissioners can actually read up on this and figure out what we're looking at?
Ann Leslie, what kind of timeline are we working with?
That would be just fine.
Okay.
Let's do that.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sure it's going to be fine.
Yes, that's perfectly fair and appropriate. I'll say that. Commissioner Wade.
Thank you. Okay. When you talk about there's going to be a check-in process for making sure that the proper guidelines and best practices are going to happen, what does that process look like and how often does that take place?
Yeah, well, that is yet to be determined, but, the NDOT staff are very open. I think, did we talk about every 9 months? Yeah, we would check in just to see what the projects have been, kind of review the data, and just make sure that all the things that Metro Arts would want to see as far as maintenance plan, paying artists, upkeep, those were all being taken care of.
I have one question, just because I noticed something else around the Arthur Avenue project,
Yes.
which also is that connected at all, or just as we continue to read in this next month, or is that something completely different?
Well, certainly connected. NDOT is a strong, is one of our partners, and certainly has a big role in Arthur Avenue. But that is a different kind of project for Metro Arts and our public art team. In that that project is being paid for by percent funds, which you'll learn more about, as well as funds from Nashville Department of Transportation. So a little different than these community kinds of public art projects.
Thanks. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. And so it is certainly the will of the commission of how they want to handle this action item.
I do have a question. I'm not sure if this is the appropriate time for this question, but it seems like the guidelines outline public art as just on Metro-owned property. Is that the case? And
Well, yes, this is what we would review is only on Metro property. Certainly there are other projects, but as far as Metro Art and other departments having a review process, it's only for those projects on Metro property.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. So just procedurally, we can just entertain a motion to approve this, or based on Commissioner John, to defer this to the next meeting. So whatever the will of John, do you want to make that as a motion so that we can get that on the record?
So I would move that we defer this to the next meeting.
Any second?
I'll second that.
All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstain? All right, it carries. So we will defer this action item to the next committee, the next commission meeting. And so the next item on the agenda would be the public art guideline amendment.
Thank you. I'd like to echo Ann Leslie's welcome to all of you. Thank you for your service. Thank you for being here. We'd like to make a couple changes to the public art guidelines. And one is about the composition of the Public Art Committee. So as you all know, there's committees that work within the commission. One's the Public Art Committee, often proposals that have to do with the percent fund are approved in Public Art Committee before they come to commission for approval. So you'll see the original text, and then the red lines are the proposed changes. So the PAC will have a total of 9 members. We'd like to increase the size of PAC, 3 commissioners, 1 who serves as committee chair, and 6 community members. At least 2 committee members will be visual artists. And then the rest is unchanged. The reason for this is with illnesses and other responsibilities, et cetera, we'd like to have more commissioners on the committee, both to spread the committee out, or commissioners out on committees, but also so that we always can ensure that we have a commissioner at PAC and someone who's on PAC then at commission. We'd like to increase the number of community members, and we'd like just to increase the requirement that 2 are visual artists. So responsibilities for PAC, you can see a list of responsibilities. We'd like to remove one. So we convene community selection panels to review all artist submissions for public art projects. Right now, the PAC and then the commission approve selection panelists. So because we meet 2 on, 1 off, if it's an off month, we can't move forward with the process until we are here for you all to approve community panel members. These are members of the community who apply through an open call. Staff review them. We make sure we have a certain amount of visual artists. We think it's a really great way to have the public involved in the process and bring them into the activity of the city and Metro Arts. But we would like to remove the approval process just for expediency. And the final change is In the composition of the selection panels, we would like for at least 2 panel members to be visual artists instead of 1, just to bring that expertise to the process. Please don't worry about the highlighted section at the end. That was a point of discussion for our last PAC meeting.
All right, thank you. This is a recommendation from a committee, so we can just move right into questions and discussion. And so are there any questions or discussion on this agenda item? Any questions? Are we ready to vote on this?
Well, I'm just going to raise the same concern. Yeah, to request that we defer this, so long as it's not going to cause any harm until the next.
How timely do we need to get this changed?
It's okay. We'll just move forward with the next action item then.
Okay.
Yeah.
All in favor of deferring this to the next commission meeting? Aye. Aye. All right, any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, we will defer this action item to the next commission meeting as well. And then the last item we have is the lending library panelist.
So since we did not move forward with a possible motion to not select a panelist, we are asking you to review the lending library selection panelist slate that we are recommending. This has been approved by PAC, and we are bringing it to commission for approval. So lending library selection panel, these are the 7 panelists that we have, that we recommend. Lending library is a process that we partner with, that we initiated and partnered with Nashville Public Libraries. I think it's one of the greatest projects we do. It's so special that artists around the city are compensated to bring work into the city's public art collection, and it's made available at libraries around the city to be checked out for a period of time. So this is our second round of lending library. We are adding 5 additional libraries. It's an open call.
All right. Are there any questions on the panelists who are listed on the screen right before you?
And just to clarify, really, so what we were doing is we are going through this process where you approve the panel, and we're asking that we just go forward with the panel. Without this, the process is still the same. We put out an open call. Anyone in the community can apply. We have a rubric that we put out with the call. People can look at how we're being scored on the rubric. So the process will all stay the same. It won't just come through the commission because it slows us up a couple of months. And so this is what will happen if you approve the other 2 motions next month. We won't be bringing these to you for approval.
Yeah.
So had the other 2 motions
passed, we wouldn't have presented this to you.
But and this is a normal course and procedure to present it now. And
right now, the way the guidelines are written right now, we have to present the panel.
And I will say this is time sensitive just because we want to move lending library forward, hopefully.
Yeah.
Are there any questions? All right. All those in favor of this panel that was presented to us, aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, the lending library panelist list that was presented was approved, so thank you so much.
Can I get a first and a second?
Oh. And I'll defer to legal on this, but my understanding is that when you have a committee recommendation that you don't necessarily need a second because there are members on the committee, but I will defer to legal on that just to make sure that we are consistent with how we handle recommendations and all right, so if Commissioner John made the motion to accept and it was seconded by, okay, thank you, seconded by Commissioner Jester, not Lester, sorry.
Thank you.
Forgive me, I'm getting used to names. Chuck, do you have a question?
I'm no lawyer, don't claim to be one, but do they need to read the motion as is and then second it from the one that we put together as usual?
I will defer.
I'm not sure I understood. Are you asking, they don't need to read the motion out loud? If that's what you're asking.
Right.
If it's on the board.
Right.
And that's what was referred to.
All right, thank you so much.
since that procedural issue was brought up, I can't remember what we did on the second item when we deferred it, if we got the second, or do we need a second?
Yes, so the two of you were the same at the last time. Okay. So yes, I'm assuming that's on the record. Vivian, you have the person? Yes. Okay. All right, thank you so much. All right, so the next item on the agenda is the special election.
Appointments.
Oh, the point, well, it says on the agenda, so I'll read what it says. Special election, acting chairs updates, and nominating committee. And so it is no secret that last meeting, I was not chair, and I am acting interim chair right now. And so we've had some vacancies, we had some resignations, and so I was serving as vice chair. And because of our chair resigned, I moved into the acting interim chair. I have not been on the commission for a year. So because of that, I cannot serve as chair of the commission. And so because of that, I'm going to read this in the record just so that we are all on the same page of what procedurally is getting ready to happen. And so Article 6, Section 4 of our bylaws, one of the sections says that if an officer's appointed term on the commission itself ends before his or her term as an officer is set to end, the chair or person performing the chair's duties under the succession provisions of Article 6, Section 2 shall appoint a replacement until such time as the next regularly held election occurs. And in our case, our chair's term ended because of a resignation, and that was before her term as chair was supposed to end. And again, I was the vice chair and as the person performing the chair's duties. And under the bylaws, I have the authority to appoint a replacement. And the replacement will serve until the next regularly held election occurs. And in order to serve as chair of the commission, again, an individual must have served on the commission for a period of 1 year. And so we have 3 commissioners who fit that description of serving for at least 1 year. And so of the 3, it is my desire to appoint Diana Perez as chair of the commission. And moving forward, she will sit in this seat and serve as chair of the commission. And so that's where we are. That's where we are. And so this will be my last time serving as acting chair. The next meeting and the meetings going forward, we will, Commissioner Diana will serve as chair until we have our election. Are there any questions on that? Yes.
Do we need to appoint a secretary?
The new chair will do that. Yeah. So once she is chair, she will have the authority and the duties to do all things that the chair is going to do. And so I do not want to take that away from the new chair, because again, I am acting interim chair. Yes.
The executive committee will be the new chair, the vice chair, and the secretary. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Are there any other questions on that? I want to make sure that people understand that process and know why I cannot, as vice chair, continue to sit in this seat. Okay.
When exactly are the elections?
The elections are September.
Okay.
Daniel, did you have something to add? Okay.
No, we'll do the committee appointments next month once we have the new chair and once the new commissioners get a sense of everything that we're working on.
Yes. All right, if there are no other questions for me about this, I will pass it on over to Daniel Singh, who is our executive director, to give his executive director's report. So Daniel?
Claudia, can I just have you help? I have some packets that I've passed out to the commissioners here, and there's some extra ones in case anyone wants them. I want us to just remember that, you know, we always talk about what is our role here. We started with 2 great artists. It's what gives me joy in what we do. After all the minutes in the board packet, that's an inch thick that you have to read through. So what's going to be really important for us in the coming months is advocacy. We're meeting with the mayor's office and council and trying to get the budget where we want it to be for our asks. We're expecting, as of this morning, we had about 35 Thrive applications, about 20 operating grant 25 operating grant applications submitted, and about 76 in the queue for operating. and 166 in the queue for Thrive. And so we have 4 more days to finish. So we might, all of them don't always submit, so we don't know what the final numbers are, but it'll get there eventually. So our request of the commission is to like really be focused on the advocacy piece as we move forward. I think most of you, the existing commissioners know, but I wanted to make sure the incoming commissioners know that there's an audit we're going through. When I had a conversation with Kevin Crumbo, the Director of Finance, on November 29th, I said, if there's anything we can do to make our processes better, let us know. And so they have asked for an audit of our processes, and I also asked the audit director to make sure it's a complete audit, not just the grants or not just one thing, do everything, do our contracts, invoices, purchase orders, audit everything. So there probably will be findings, right? Like every audit has a finding. It finds things need to be changed. And once we have that report, we'll report that out to everyone. Hiring-wise, we are almost all up to speed. We just found out that MRSA is leaving us. So we have to like look at what we'll do with the staff org chart and work through that. We're still dealing with a lot of capacity issues. Our office had a lot of the positions frozen during the pandemic. And then much before that as well, it had kept things on a lower staff capacity. And so now we're working on building that back up. So we're trying to get caught up. It'll take us a while to get back up to where we were before the pandemic. I wanted to mention the staff commission training and retreat that the CARE committee has requested. We'll work with all of you to find 2 days that works for about 30 people with very busy schedules, but we'll make sure we work with all of you as we do that. And I wanted to take some time to address some of the questions that were put to me last month. And so one for you, crisscross them. And so, there's a lot of questions in the air right now, and I wanted to start my a reflection with a question I had in the op-ed. How does Metro Arts facilitate fair and just opportunities for the different expressions of the peoples of Nashville to be well-resourced, visible, and thriving? So I've handed out some packets there for you, and you will see that as far back as 1993, Metro Arts has funded projects on diversity. This is what drew me to this job, right? Like of all the arts commissions in the country, Metro Arts is the first one that had a committee on anti-racism and equity. And I'm really excited about it. I'm proud about the work we do here. So starting back in 1993, we've been funding projects like this. And connecting it back to my own personal life, I'm South Asian. I'm a man of color, first director of color in this agency. Grew up in India, and I come from the tradition of Mohandas Gandhi, of civil disobedience, and working with difficult questions. And I'm going to bring that into the space and work through difficult questions with all of you, because that's my job as the leader, is to bring these questions to all of you, ask your advice, and have you be thought partners in what we're doing. I'm also really mindful of where we are in Tennessee, right? It's the state where, for those of you who don't know, volunteer state, that name was given to us because they needed volunteers to go and fight Mexicans. This is also the state where the Trail of Tears started. This is also the state where the civil rights movement started. So all of these are intertwined with the work we're doing here. And so I want to keep all of that in mind as we talk through the rest of the things. I want to read one quote from the 1993 article. In that, the program leader, Susan Ezel, said, funding for Metro Arts was needed, or the project was needed because diversity can be threatening to people who don't understand what other people are bringing to our city. They may feel Nashville's culture is being replaced. We want to help mature adults get acquainted with other cultures face to face, meeting people on their own level. So we have a long history of doing this. And our mission states, we believe that arts drive a vibrant and equitable community. We strive to ensure that all Nashvilleians will have access to a creative life through community investments, artists and organizational training, public art, and direct programs that involve residents in all forms of art and culture. There's been a lot of talk of illegal and legal. I would also like us to think about what is moral. sometimes what is legal might not be moral. And I want us to just keep that in our mind as we talk through this. There were questions about how we did the July vote, about the affirmative action piece being the reason why it needed to be changed. In the packet I've handed out to the commissioners. I also want to apologize, this is happening in such a public format, but this is the only way we all can gather, so here it is. There's an email in May of 2023. In your packet, you will see I emailed Commissioner Cheek and let him know about the upcoming affirmative action ruling and said, this might affect how funding can happen, and you will see his response that there are other ways to do this. And he also mentions other committee members that we could work with on achieving our goals and commitments to anti-racism and equity, despite whatever the affirmative action ruling might be. However, in the July vote, he brings it up as a problem. I don't know what his reasoning was. That's the question I have of you. So he knew this for 3 months. But on the July, once we're getting close to a vote, he has a question. He could have taken some initiative and helped us with this, but he didn't. After that, I asked for help on getting the disparity study out. We commissioned, we had an attempted disparity study. It did not meet the legal definition of disparity, so it's an attempted disparity study. And again, I was asked by commissioners who predominantly happen to be white to not release the study, to wait till after the decision by the council was made. And so that's also in the packet that I've shared with you. And then I asked for a meeting. I asked if Commissioner Cheek would help facilitate a meeting with the mayor. And at that point, Commissioner Cheek was the chair of the advocacy committee, and he had been the one who helped me secure the first meeting when Mayor O'Connell was a candidate. And you will see a text message that says he is not sure how he can arrange a meeting. And in the next message you'll see, I had requested a committee member on the advocacy committee to ask for a meeting with the incoming mayor. And again, I was denied opportunity to meet with the mayor. So there was a comment made at the last commission meeting that this is like Mayberry, and it's a really small town. People talk to each other, people talk to the mayor. But clearly it's not that simple, right? Like 2 people on the commission who were giving me access or introductions till that point suddenly chose that they're not going to get me an introduction to the mayor. So I just wanted to point that out and have you all have that. And we've talked about legal problems. And so I wanted to point out that I followed legal guidelines, legal's advice, and we reframed the vote from July to August using criteria that was vetted by the legal office, but the vote didn't go the way we wanted to. And so when we asked the question, what happened on the December council meeting, Councilperson Stiles asked what happened, between the 2 meetings. And so then the answer was that, well, commissioners reconsidered what the status quo was and who might be harmed by the funding not being what they got the year before. That was not the reason we were given when we were asked to take the vote back. We were told it's potentially illegal. We should revoke the vote. So they used the affirmative action as a boogeyman, got us to revoke the vote, and then they had other reasons on record in December that they said they had other considerations. So I just wanted to point that out, that we followed legal at every step of the way, but there seems to be other factors at play, and I don't know the answers to that, but I want to just present them. For another instance where I followed legal's advice was there was a Commissioner Jane Doe who requested ADA accommodations, and I was told we couldn't provide the ADA accommodations per sunshine laws. And at that point, the previous chair, Ellen Angelico, decided to file a federal investigation against Metro Arts and Metro Legal. And so here's an instance where I followed Metro Legal, but a commissioner chooses to file a federal complaint into Metro Arts and Metro Legal and is never portrayed as combative or as confrontational. But me, the man of color, is often portrayed as being confrontational, not being collaborative. And both of the times when I followed legal advice, it opened the body up to further liabilities. And all I'm pointing out is that every decision has a liability. It's not that one does and one doesn't. I followed legal's advice on the grants. We have the MHRC complaint. I followed legal's advice on the ADA protection. The commissioner chose to file a federal investigation into Metro Arts. During that conversation, I requested that legal keep me in touch about the federal investigation and keep me abreast of what's happening. I did not hear anything at all. I saw that there was a late filed motion for a settlement with the person who filed the claim. The claim was against Metro Arts. I would have hoped that this body would have liked to weigh in on what the settlement might look like or the amount that the person might receive. I found out on a late file the night before it was filed by people in the community pointing out to me, thinking I did it on purpose and I was trying to hide it. So I'm just bringing this up for all of you to keep this in your mind. There's another, in the previous meeting, I was maligned that I wasn't at the department director's meeting. And there's an email in your packet that'll clear the record that I have been attending all of the department directors' meeting by Kristen Wilson, the chief of operations. And so, you know, our charge from the commission and CARE has been to notice things and to ask questions, right? Like I'm noticing a pattern here. You know, so just wanted to point that out and put it all on the record. And then there were questions about why we haven't been proactive about communicating about the second installment about the grants. We have been asking budget since November 28th for an update on what the second allocations of the grants might be. I got the update yesterday afternoon, finally, after about 2 months of waiting. And so then that helps you understand why there's delay in us communicating to the public, right? Like, because it took 2 months for me to get a response from budget. There was accusation last month that I was misappropriating Thrive funds by moving it from grants into a consulting contract. There's an email in your packet where we've asked accounting to help us create a new code, and accounting is telling us use one of the existing codes. Because anytime we create a new object code, it's for every agency in the office. So if you create one for grants, it's going to show up on every agency's report, even if they never use something called Thrive. So I wanted to clarify that accusation that the commission voted on a certain amount of funding to go to Thrive. We don't have a Thrive object code in our budget line item, so we moved it to contracting, and that's how we've been doing it for the past 7 years, to clarify that for the report. There are questions about a consultant contract for $400,000 for our cultural planning. This consultant contract was entered in 2021. We amended it last year because prices have gone up. The consultant had been on pause for 1.5 years during the pandemic, during the previous transitions. We wanted to add an evaluator and a project coordinator to help us support with this contract. And that's what the contract is, but the contract was entered into before I got into office here, for the record. I do want to take responsibility for saying that the mid-year funding was coming from bonds. That was a rookie mistake. I heard it in passing from someone else, and I repeated it, and I shouldn't have done that. I should have checked that, but I will let you know that. I also want to point out that Finance Director Kevin Crumbo is on the audit committee, and he was on the date the audit was called and he voted on it. He was listed as a board member of one of the larger organizations. His wife is also listed as a board member of a larger organization. To me, I asked the question, is that a potential conflict of interest as people vote on those audit questions? I would have recused myself. You know, I'm not a lawyer, but just pointing it out. When I finally got the report yesterday from, the answer from budget after asking them in November 28th, getting the answer yesterday that it's going to still take them some more time with no definite date, I was also asked for a list of organizations and the amount of grant money they might get. And I'm just curious why the budget office that oversees $3.4 billion would want to know information about $2 million of arts funding that is not their concern. It's this body's concern. You know, it's kind of like saying, before I agree if this is going to be the way we grade, I want to see who's going to get graded. There are professors on this panel, right? Like, you want to set the framework. If they have questions about percentages, if they have questions about the framework or the rubric or the grant applications, I'm absolutely fine. Why do you need to know which applicant is getting how much before you decide you're going to tell me when you're going to get the grant? All of our records are open, right? So all of this is public records. I'm happy to send this to budget, but it shouldn't matter. They should be able to give me the date, and I still haven't received a date. So I'm just pointing out all of those records that came up, questions that have come up. In the council hearing that councilperson Joy Stiles called, as soon as I got the request for the hearing, I let Leah know and said, do you want to check in? Do you want to do anything? This has been the practice with Metro Arts. I work with the chair or the acting chair. I was accused of intentionally withholding information from the commission. I did not. I checked with the commission chair, as has been the practice for the past 18 months. So if you want to change that practice, I would love to know about it so I can give you what you want. What else? Okay. I also want to point out that I worked with Mattia Powell for a whole year without any problems. And then 1 month after that, everything suddenly went haywire. And so there's a question I just want to put out, like, you know, like I said, I'm asking questions. I'm asking, you know, like, is there fragility involved? Is there a savior complex involved when someone new takes on a position and assumes they can do something differently? And a lack of experience when they take on a position, assumes they can do something differently than the previous chair who did it and worked with me comfortably. We didn't always agree on everything we did, but we disagreed respectfully, and we were able to work through complex decisions together. And I kind of want to point out that there's an array of emails and accusations coming about me, and I want to read a quote from Toni Morrison that kind of might help us put that in perspective. It is important, therefore, to know who the real enemy is and to know the function, the very serious function of racism, which is distraction. It keeps you from doing your work. It keeps you explaining over and over again your reason for being. Somebody says you have no language, so you spend 20 years proving that you do. Somebody says your head isn't shaped properly, so you have scientists working on the fact that it is. Someone says you have no art, so you dredge that up. Somebody says you have no kingdoms, and so you dredge that up. None of that is necessary. There will always be one more thing. Since we're in an art space, I thought we should have some moments with the arts as well. What else do I want to say?
I'm getting very lost.
Yeah.
Here. So, do I understand correctly that you're responding to the questions raised in Commissioner Cheek's email?
These were questions raised in the November meeting.
In the November meeting.
Correct.
Okay. And there's also an email that Commissioner Cheek, I think, sent out sometime last year, resent it.
Yes.
And you said, I believe, you said you were going to respond to that.
I am responding.
That's what you're doing here?
Yes.
Okay, okay. Will there be an opportunity for us to, one, learn about these issues more thoroughly?
Absolutely, yes.
And then to address them with you?
Yeah, of course. That's why I wanted to bring it out to you. And that's what I'm saying. I need to get all of your advice and thoughts and help us solve this together.
Sure.
And I just wanted to put it out there because a lot of accusations are flying, and I just wanted to say, let's discuss it. This is the only time we can discuss it. So I'm raising it all up for you to.
I mean, I'm sure you can appreciate that's a lot to digest.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
this is not the last conversation. I hope that we're going to.
No. That was the last note. I said I know we're at time, but I look forward to continuing this conversation in our upcoming meetings.
Perfect.
Well, thank you, Director Singh. And so, yes, this is a lot to digest. And so when you are in the public eye, sometimes, well, not sometimes, oftentimes, people will send emails, they will say things about you, and sometimes that's hard to hear. And so I do hear pain in your voice. I I respect your experiences, and those are your feelings, and they are valid. And we do want to support you in any way we can because you serve as the director. And so you are there day to day doing the work of the commission. And so we appreciate that. And so we appreciate anytime there can be some transparency and anytime there can be information delivered to us, because as you said earlier, this is really the only time that we can meet. Like, we can't have two commissioners meeting together. And so this is the only time we really will be able to hear information and have all of us here together to address things. I was here for most of these things, and it still was a little hard to digest for me and not to follow, but just to piece it together and where we are. And so I do want to encourage the new commissioners that it is not chaos. It is just a lot of information, a lot of new type of information just to digest. And I'm hopeful, and I know that we will get through this season because we have to. And if you do have questions, and I can already see that we are going to have a wonderful dialogue. If you have questions, ask those questions, because this is the space to do that, to get the answers that you need. And I'm hoping that we will be able to move past a lot of this or all of this. And so, Danny, do you have something else you want
I
to
just want to say one thing quickly. I wanted to end by saying that our focus still is advocacy. And there's an article in the packet I sent to you that's 1998, where organizations are fighting about exactly the same thing that we're talking about right now. And so it's important that we don't get lost in the detail. I want us to stay focused on the advocacy. We have committed to the artists that we're trying to raise 1% of the city budget for arts organizations and artists, and that should be our focus. We should be working together to make sure we get that commitment from the mayor. I do not want us to end up here 25 years from now and have someone pick up a newspaper article and say, look, 1998, 2024, 2020, 48, whatever. So let's move past this, and I want to work collaboratively with you. This is not a new issue. This has been an issue that's been in the works from 1998. But I think what this commission can do differently is to focus on making sure we get that 1% for the arts and move forward from there.
Commissioner Lefkowitz, I saw your hand up first. I want to get to you.
Thank you for all of this. This is so helpful. I do want to say as a professor, I always come to class prepared and ask my students to do so. So I'm an over-preparer. And I spent a lot of time trying to piece this together myself over the last month, really methodically. And one of the challenges was, for me in preparing, particularly for this meeting, that the video recordings of previous meetings were not available in any place that I could find for key meetings. So, for example, I wanted to go back and watch July and August. I think August is up, but maybe July wasn't. And then November, which I know was this was the last meeting and it was important. So I know that there are things underway with that, and I just did receive the recording this morning of the November meeting, but I would love, as a practice forward, to have all of those, because I like to get into this and look, and that would really help me prepare and create and understand this timeline and some of these issues. So,
Can I speak on the recordings?
thank you.
Absolutely, yes.
So for the recordings, we weren't using Metro Network, so there's no video recording before August. With my joining the team from August 22 until currently. So what my goal is, as in my position, is to have it recorded and be in a facility. That means that we might move around facilities, but if you can work with me on that, is to get into a facility that we can have someone recording all of our meetings. Now, we do have audio recordings, so if you want specific dates, if you all want to send me specific dates, I can get those recordings to you as commissioners. There are FOIA requests when it comes to the public, but for the commissioners, if you have specific meeting dates that you do want the audio recording, please let me know, and I will get that to you.
That's so helpful. Thank you so much. And just as a future practice, I would love to have meetings streamed and available on Metro, as many committees seem to do.
We just got approved for that in November.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Do I understand correctly that the pending audit is going to help us understand a lot of these issues also?
The audit is two separate things. So there's an MHRC investigation that's looking at the grant approval process, and then there's an audit. I don't think the audit's going to change anything that we're doing. They might find that I probably made mistakes and I probably signed an invoice I shouldn't have signed or made it into. So I will take responsibility for that, but I don't think the audit's going to change our process. It's just a review of everything that was done so we can put all these allegations to rest.
Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thank you. And just also, as commissioners, and this is not new, this is not unique to our commission. All commissioners, whatever commission you are on, we aren't talking and having sidebar conversations and meetings. But if you do have questions, please reach out to Daniel. Please reach out to his staff because they are here to assist. And most of the questions that you have, they usually will have those answers. And so I just encourage you to utilize what's before you so that you can come prepared and ready to deal with the business of the Arts Commission. And so I appreciate the engagement today because it is helpful, and I think it will help all of us just understand more because this is not our daytime job. And so this is secondary to us. And so when we do have the time, we will review our notes and we are, committed to this work. But if we can just understand how everything works together with the people and who's there at our exposure, I think we'll be all right. And so again, Daniel, we hear you. We want to support you because we need you, because you are here again during the day-to-day of the Arts Commission. And so we thank you for that. And so if there is nothing else for Daniel's portion, I do want to get to our old and new business, and then
I do want to say, I do want to say something real quick. We hired Daniel. I was part of the interview of recent commissioners that are not in the commission anymore. We're part of that interview, and we did it very intentionally to start a change in the Metro Arts. And so that change started the day we interviewed him and made that decision and made questions about how we're going to just keep moving forward and better serve the artistic community. So just want to say that.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner Perez. And then Commissioner Watts.
Yes. I guess I'm looking for the chronological order like you, so I can do a 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And so on some levels, I've been working with boards and commissions for 40 years. So I'm going to tell you that I look for A plus B has to equal C somewhere along the way. And if I can get that, and I think I see commissioners nodding, that would be helpful for us. Is that going to be part of the onboarding process?
We'll have a packet of all of the minutes from the previous meetings, and so that should give you a picture of what happened in the last year. Is that what you're asking for, or?
That's part of it, but I think also the other part has to do with what I call the public view.
Yeah.
And the public comments, which also add to the day-to-day issues that commissions face. Is somewhere has that been captured by this?
Yes, we have all public comments.
I think that's always helpful to understand what people are saying, whether they're inside, anonymous, or whatever. So that gives us backdrop to what the day-to-day issues were as codified by the minutes. So I'm looking for something that will give us that, so that we get just a full understanding. I know there's a report coming from MHC, and there's an audit. They may overlap. I've done these before.
Yeah.
So I think we have to be ready that there might be some overlap, but they're somewhat different, but they're really not.
Yeah, but we capture public comments that are emailed to us. The ones that are spoken in will be in the recordings going forward. In the past, we have not been transcribing public comments when they're spoken verbally. But going forward, we'll have recordings of it.
What is the correct course of action to bring up the question about the potential for Kevin being on an audit where there might be a conflict of interest?
I don't know. I'm just asking questions, and I hope the people who know those answers can answer them.
Does legal have an answer for that?
What's the exact question? I'm sorry. What to do about the...
If there appears to be a direct conflict of interest from somebody that's doing the audit, how would we address whether or not that is actually a conflict of interest?
The Metro Code provides a mechanism for filing an ethics complaint if someone wishes to do that.
What if you're not sure it's an ethics issue? You just want to make sure it's not.
They do advisory opinions.
Okay. So legal does those advisory opinions? Who did you just, Ethics Commission?
There's a Board of Ethical Conduct in the Metro Code, yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. And if there's no other discussion or questions regarding Daniel's comments, we will move into our final agenda item is old and new business. And I do know Commissioner Perez wanted to discuss something from our previous board meeting. Commissioner Perez.
Yes, thank you, Leanne. Thank you for serving as a chair today. I look forward to working with you and all of you new commissioners. I regret that I don't think anybody at the new commissioners were part of last meeting or were new. So bear with me as I made my point. I'm just going to read my notes. That's just easier for me. So I just want to take a moment to address a situation in the last meeting in November. I appreciate the expertise and experience that all the commissioners bring to the table. We have a big responsibility in overseeing this department, which is in charge of distributing more than 7 million this year. We must ensure that these funds are responsibly handled and, of course, in an equitable way, but that's not what I'm talking about here. Just want to make sure. We must speak, of course, about any concerns and questions on any doing, and I trust that the staff and the executive director take this very seriously. However, none of us sitting here, not 1%, is entitled to address their concerns in an aggressive manner. You can be deeply concerned and frustrated if that's how you feel, and yet be respectful. It is not permissible, and we should not tolerate attacks on anybody in this room or any hostile demeanor towards fellow commissioners, the staff, or executive director. I regret and apologize for not speaking up for my fellow former commissioner and the staff that were being aggressively addressed at the last commission meeting on November, when concerns were raised about finance, budgeting, new staff, including credentials of one of them. I felt and still feel horrified of such demeanor. We are not here to shout down people's spirits. We are here to work together. We should offer support through leadership and any guidance. Am I being naive? Is that behavior is normal? And have I just been living in a different world? I'm really curious as to why we all remained silent that day. I know nobody is here, but this is recorded, so hopefully somebody, the people that was sitting at that table is there, and these were honest questions. So that anybody was present that day, feel free to approach to me and explain to me. My questions were, am I being naive? And is that behavior normal? And have I just been living in a different world? Again, honest questions. I have hopes that despite roadblocks we have hit, this department will move in the right direction to better serve our city's artistic community. I look forward to continuing working together and learning from each of your expertise, new commissioners, and the expertise that you bring to the table. And I hope that we all agree that an aggressive or hostile demeanor towards anybody in this space should not be acceptable in the future.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner Perez. Daniel, you have one more thing to say?
Yeah, I just want to point out for the record that a person of color is apologizing for the behavior of a white commissioner. Just want to put it on the record.
All right, are there any other questions for old or new business? All right, again, I thank you all for being here today. Today was a lot, and I don't think that every commission meeting will be this way. There's a lot to digest for this month, and so again, thank you all for being here today. And do we have a motion to adjourn? All right, Commissioner John, and that's seconded by Commissioner Beverly. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? We are adjourned. Thank you.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information on this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.